Okay, so I was going to do a video on an individual first aid kit or an IFAK and kind of break down. I was going to show some of the kits that we bought and brought to Ukraine with us. And we did modify them. You know, we doubled up on the tourniquets. I just posted a video recently on tourniquets, and the philosophy when it comes to a tourniquet is one is none, two is one. When you have a piece of life-saving equipment in your medical kit, and there's a possibility that for whatever reason something goes wrong and it fails, you could be done. So to double up on the life-saving medical equipment is vital. In my opinion, it's absolutely vital. You can never have too many wound packaging. Gauze, I prefer rolls. I don't really like the 4x4s, to be quite honest. So I much preferred the rolled gauze. I just found it much better to be packing, and of course surgeons don't have to go digging for that stuff because you find an end, you can pull it all out. So so when I was kind of looking at the first aid kit, I was like, wow, like this could be like a 3-hour video on this first aid kit easily. So I decided, you know what's better is to maybe talk about some of the individual pieces in there, because I do think some of the individual pieces warrant just some discussion by themselves. You could do a whole video on an Israeli bandage. You could do a whole video on shears, which is literally what we're about to do right now. But there's so many other items, the tourniquets, the gauze, which you prefer, whether you want it impregnated with some kind of a hemostatic agent or not. I could do a whole video just on that. So there's lots of different things that we can kind of get into as far as going into that first aid kit and trying to help you understand what each thing is, how it works, what it does. So let's get into trauma shears. Now, I just posted a video recently on a cheap sort of basic survival kit, and it's really supplementary at best. It's not there's no way that you'd want this as a standalone kit, but I did a video on how practical I thought it was to buy something like that for $30 and maybe modify it a wee bit. Even things like just adding zip ties to it, and maybe a wee bit of some duct tape, some other bits and pieces that you can add into it, an extra battery that you could add in there, and it would help you, a little pocket-sized pepper spray or whatever. The cool thing is that when you're spending $30 on something and you put it in a vehicle, you don't have to touch it. So the point that I was starting to go down, and I distract myself all the time, is what I was saying about that kit is the first time you use even cheap stuff, it can actually work really effectively. The first time you use a cheap knife, it can work really, really well. The difference is the longevity. That's what you get. And some knives, some types of steel with the right kind of carbon holder, have a really, really good edge. The truth is, absolutely, but can you get a relatively decent edge even on a cheap knife? Yes, you just might not keep it. But if you just have to cut through a seatbelt or a rope or a piece of clothing and something for the first time, it may be sharp enough, absolutely, to get you that first cut that you need to save your life. And that's why putting something in there that you don't touch, you don't use, unless it's some form of emergency, and if you do use it, just replace it. Just if you use the knife, hey, you know what, just keep that knife now and put it in the pocket of your truck for some kind of use, and just buy another new $7 knife, $10 knife, and put it in the kit that's never been used. So it's going to be really sharp. And if you want to replace the kit with good quality stuff, that's also up to you. If you can afford it, then high quality tools are always better. The point that I'm trying to make is that when you have high quality tools, you tend to go and get them. So there's certain things that I'll just go and get because I prefer to use good quality stuff. So I don't want to reiterate everything I said in a previous video about that, but what I do want to say is that cheap trauma shears, which these are not, cheap trauma shears, which is what we used in Ukraine a lot, I think they're great. I think they work great. Honestly, the first 5, maybe even as many as 10 times. I think even the cheap trauma shears just do fine. It's once you start getting to that point, though, they're kind of trash. They're kind of done, and you're better almost just throwing them away. But when you go to something like this, and these are axe shears, and I'm not going to make you wait to the end to find out which shears I prefer. I like axe shears. I even prefer these over even more expensive shears. And there's other shears out there, they're kind of gimmicky. They look almost like a multi-tool. And, I just think it's better that you have a multi-tool and you do multi-tool stuff with the multi-tool, and then you do shear work with your shears. I think when you start putting all these things together, I think you lose a lot of the good functionality. You lose the weight, the storage. You just lose. I think you lose a lot of good elements to just having the sole purpose tool that it was designed for in your kit. And you know, if you have like an $80, $90, $100 pair of shears, you're probably going to go and get them and use them quite often. Where if you have like a $3 or $5 pair of shears in your first aid kit, you don't need to ever go and get those. You can have something else for your everyday use that you use. It's really good, that won't let you down. And then that other kit is off to the side. And like I said, if for some reason you get in an accident one day and you don't have your kit on you, then you can break it out and use whatever's in that kit, and God willing, it will work for you perfectly the first time, which is hopefully all you need at that point to get you out of trouble. So these are axe shears, just the ladder axe shears. Now, I don't get endorsed by anybody. Literally, I sometimes I feel sorry for myself because I don't have any sponsors. I don't have any, you know, people that, you know, donate to me or anything like that. So when I'm recommending a product, it's not because I get any kind of kickbacks or payment or anything from the company. I'm just trying to refer you to products that I think are really, really good. Now, I can't remember what I paid for these. I think it was like 40 something dollars, you know, so maybe with tax, it's like $46, $47, whatever the case is. And that is expensive for shears. No doubt that is expensive for shears. But the bottom line is that if you're wanting something to work again and again and again, I highly recommend these as part of your main kit. Because if you're going to be in a situation where you might have to help multiple amounts of people, you want something that's going to be dependable. So why do I like these? Well, honestly, I didn't really find anything that these things couldn't really cut through. I mean, not in the situation of trying to get to a wound and bandage people or anything like that. So I just wanted to do a couple of little demonstrations of some just everyday things that you're going to find that you're going to have to cut through. So this is a pair of my wife's old jeans. I never liked them, you know. I mean, these things you just hold, these things they'll just shred these jeans in seconds. You'll get into anything you want to get into as far as clothing, you'll get right through them. Here's the waist, which typically is the widest part. I mean, it's like butter going through the waist, you know. Here's a towel. So they have the ends of the towel, the seams, they're always the hardest as well. I mean, it's like cutting through paper, you know, just nothing at all. Here's a jacket, you know, just cutting through the zip. It's an old jacket, just cutting through the zip. I mean, just nothing. No problems whatsoever. It'll just shred this thing, you know. Here's an old sneaker, you know. Sometimes if you get into a situation where you have to remove the sneaker, which it really sucks, but that's actually how like a paramedic or an EMT are going to remove your shoes. Some people really get upset at it, but the bottom line is they don't want, if you're already getting swelling, you've got something on there and you maybe have a stress fracture, if they go to pull the shoe off or even try to unlace it or try to take it off in some way, it could actually move the fracture a little bit, or it could just pull on whatever tendon or ligament or whatever's damaged. It could pull on that. So when you get your scissors in there and you just cut that shoe away, now they can just get that thing right off. I just need to change my hand position, and you can just get right in there and you can just cut that shoe right apart, you know. So, and then, you know, same with an old pair of boots, you know. So you got these are, I mean, I don't know how many layers. These are Keen boots. They're a pretty good size, pretty good boots. I wore these things for years, and you know, you can go through whichever part. You can go through the thick part, just cut all the way down there, just goes right through it. You know, if you want to cut through, even if you want to go through the tongue, maybe just getting the thing balanced is the hardest part. You can just cut right down through the middle of the boot, and just now you're getting a person's foot out of there pretty easily, you know. So I was struggling a wee bit there because the point is hitting it. I'm not struggling to cut the rubber because I'm pretty sure this will cut the rubber easily. What I am struggling with is just being able to get the piece. There you go. So that's all I can kind of get because it's hitting the inside of the toe, but it just cut through that piece of rubber easily. So just get through a boot. So there's really nothing that you would wear that these things will not cut through. And that's, in my opinion, what you want to have. If you're in a high stress situation and you're trying to get a piece of clothing off, whatever the case is, then these are really, really good. What I like about the axe shears too is they've got that nice rounded end, so you can't stab somebody. So if you're trying to get in and you want to cut a t-shirt off and you're getting it in towards your clothing, you can just cut, and you're not going to stab them, because the pointy end is always either getting caught in the actual scissor itself, just like that, so you still got a nice rounded end, or it's pulling away from the person. So this is where your cut is taking place, so it's moving away or it's moving in to a nice curved end. So you're not going to stab anybody. So let me know what you think. Like I said, cheap shears will work. Put them in a kit. Don't ever use them. So if you ever find yourself in a situation, then that's great. You've got a decent pair of shears. But these things, I mean, honestly, these things just cut and cut and cut and cut. And I couldn't recommend them any heavier. Or I just really, really like these things for my main shears in my first aid kit. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment. If you find, I'm always looking to get better products. I'm always looking, or even something to compete. Now, I've tried different shears, and I've had other guys that had expensive shears, and we've compared them. And honestly, nothing cut better than these. There's maybe a couple of pairs out there that cut pretty similar, but I didn't find anything that cut better. If you happen to have something that you think, hey, these make axe shears look like a joke, like something you get out of a vending machine, then let me know, because I want to know about those things and try them out and see if I do agree with you that they are better. But until that point, I'm going to recommend that you get axe shears and put them in your kit. All right. Hey, thanks for watching.